The death of George Floyd has sparked a passionate and energetic protest movement calling for changes to policing. But not everyone agrees on what those changes should be.
I think there should be a uniform way of training.
The approach needs to drastically be changed.
I most definitely think that we should have some type of police reform. I feel like this has been going on for way too long.
On Tuesday, President Donald Trump signed an executive order creating a database to track police misconduct and offering financial incentives to meet higher standards. But it doesn't address one of the most controversial demands from protesters, calls to defund police forces. It's backed by Black Lives Matter, which says it's not about scrapping law enforcement altogether.
We're calling for money to be taken from the NYPD, not their whole entire budget, but a large portion of it, because what they're using their tools and their resources for is to militarize. And we need to divert some of those funds to education. We need to divert some of those funds to mental health, bringing in people who are on the ground, who are de-escalators, who work with mentally ill, who are gun disruptors, people who know how to stop violence in the community.
And that demand is being taken seriously in New York. Members of the City Council have proposed cutting $1 billion from the NYPD's $6 billion budget for next year to spend on social services instead. The NYPD itself has announced the disbanding of plainclothes anti-crime units, which have been involved in some of the city's most notorious police shootings. New York State has focused more on reform, passing a package of measures that include a ban on chokeholds, allowing people to film their interactions with police and granting public access to officers' disciplinary records. But the changes face opposition from law enforcement unions that say it will make their job harder. And while some policing organisations do support reform, they're concerned about the speed with which changes are being implemented.
There's a tremendous amount of pressure being placed on legislators, really in all elected leaders, to take swift action. And whenever we take swift action, there's a high likelihood that we're going to make mistakes. We're going to miss the mark. That they may satisfy the electorate that their elected representatives are taking action, but I don't think it's the right kind of action.
The NYPD is just one of roughly 18,000 law enforcement agencies across the United States. And with Republicans and Democrats in Congress disagreeing over how to approach the issue, experts say wide-scale reforms will be hard to implement. Although they do expect to see some change.
You're going to find a major push to rein in not just transparency, but accountability in how we hold police accountable for what they do. And when I talk about accountability, I'm not just talking about accountability for the individual officer who uses force, but accountability for the police leaders in setting the agenda, setting the values of the organization and holding the organization to those.
With protesters continuing to take to the streets every day across the country, the debate on what policing should look like is likely far from over. Sarah Walton, CGTN, New York.